And I am waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Well, I guess we can say the other shoe has dropped in the form of the box office flop. This, of course, is a clip of Millie Alcock being interviewed prior to the release of Supergirl, which, to my understanding, is having one of the worst box office performances in recent memory. But this is not to point out Millie's flaws or to talk about the impact that her comments may or may not have had on the film's performance. I actually did another video where I talked a little bit about that, and I talked in detail about how I think even her most controversial comments were probably pretty much exactly what the studio wanted her to say. And a lot of people have been comparing her to Rachel Zegler insofar as saying, oh, she's pulling a Rachel Zegler, or saying that she's doing something similar. And I really don't think that's the case at all. And what I did for this video is some clips of interviews with Millie prior to Supergirl coming out and with Rachel prior to Snow White coming out. And I focused on not getting the same clips that everyone else is using. So I'm not using the worst or most controversial things that either of them said. Despite that, there will almost certainly be something that each of them says that you'll disagree with, and probably a few things that you'll like. But that's for you to decide.
And I am waiting for the other shoe to drop.
And I thought that would be a fun clip to start off with. But I'll be honest, after watching probably about 50 minutes of long-form sit-down interviews with Millie Alcock, I think she's pretty charming. And I'm even more convinced of the conclusion that I came to in my last video, which was that the comments she made that are getting the most attention were probably at least somewhat based on talking points given to her by whoever's giving her a media briefing.
Now tell me, when was the first time you got a Hey Supergirl?
I think it was...
I got some great screen caps of that for the thumbnail. And shout out to this guy from BBC Radio 1. I thought he did a great job interviewing her. And so he's just asked her, when was the first time that someone called you Supergirl?
This is Anna, our costume designer, who had her 80th birthday while we were shooting. I know. She's adorable. I'm obsessed with her. So because she was like, oh, yeah, it was.
And just a quick note, you can see that the way she's dressed and the way her hair's done and the way she's moving and speaking is very comfortable. She's very animated, like the way that you might sit in a cafe and talk to a close friend. And you can actually see the interviewer reflecting her body language. When she leans forward to tell him the story, he leans forward a little bit himself as well. And this is a type of mannerism that you could call charisma or being charming, as I called it earlier. And you notice also that he asked her, when was the first time that someone called you Supergirl? And this is the type of question that is very easy to take into your ego. A lot of people would respond to a question like this with, this is the first time that someone called me Supergirl, and this is how it made me feel. Or they would recant everything about that moment because they would be remembering that. Whereas what Millie does is immediately make the story about someone else who she met on the filming and who she feels a very close connection with, it would appear. And I don't know if this is like Australian charm or something, but this is something that the Hemsworth brothers are also known for doing. When they receive praise, they very often reflect it back onto other people around them. And Chris Hemsworth in particular is known for doing this in interviews. So maybe they have the same media coach or something.
Because she was like, oh, yeah, it was really sweet.
And fans in the street, you getting people shouting Supergirl?
A little bit, yeah, but it's because I'm kind of in the press.
And just there, he was trying to play into her ego a little bit. He asked her about fans on the street, and she just brought it right back to the professional side of it, talking about being at press events. And now his next question, which I cut off a little bit here, is he's asking her about wrap gifts or wrap presents, which are gifts that may be given to cast and crew at the closing of a production. It's pretty normal in show business, even in community theater.
What were you given? What were you allowed?
Was I given? Nothing from the set. People stole things from the set.
For you?
No, from me. We were all given really cool shirts. Each department made, because on a set they give you crew shirts. They made different crew shirts.
What's funny about this part to me is she's exhibiting classic body language signs of lying, right? She's crossing her arms in front of her. She's looking away. She's touching her face. She's creating a barrier in front of her mouth. And it's almost like she's playing it up. It's almost like she's doing it on purpose, because he basically just asked her if she stole anything from set or if she knows anyone who stole anything from set. Obviously, she's not going to say yes. And in this case, it seems like she might be lying, but she's doing it in such a disarming and charming way that it's actually kind of endearing.
But I mean, the gift is the job.
And that might have been a little bit hard to hear, but she finished by saying the gift is the job. And this, of course, is a known joke in any sort of show business, because if you're a professional actor or a professional entertainer or a content creator, people will often say things like, your job is easy or your job is fun, and therefore it's less challenging or less demanding. People will often dismiss the work that you do when you're in these fields because of the idea that it's more intrinsically rewarding than most work. And for most people, I think that it is. I think for most actors, acting is probably more intrinsically rewarding than most other jobs would be for them. However, that doesn't mean that there aren't days that suck. That doesn't mean there aren't days that you don't want to get up and go to rehearsal or go on set. And so it becomes this kind of an industry joke of the job is the reward. And she just found the perfect way to slide that in at the end of him asking her about rap gifts. And you can see his reaction to it and how they riff on it together.
Guys, this is good.
I just came up with that.
Yeah.
I do feel a bit smug about it.
I don't feel bad about the fact you will be using it in every interview for the rest of the day.
Yeah, I'm taking that.
That's fine.
For the rest of my career, probably, yeah.
All right, today. Today was the day.
Today was the day.
Mm-hmm. Cool, as long as we're clear.
Just in case you're not familiar with dry English-style humor, the two of them just made a series of sarcastic jokes highlighting the fact that what she just said is common. They're acting as if she said something unique because what she said is very common. It's funny because it's the opposite.
And what about getting to actually give it to the world? Getting to see the reaction?
Yeah.
Like press events and premieres. What's been the feedback you've been receiving?
I think people are really responding to it. I think that once the film is out, they'll be I'll be inundated with the wave of everything.
Sure,
but I mean, the reason that I adore getting to disappear into other people on screen, so there's always a weird oxymoron in doing it to disappear and then making myself so incredibly visible. And I'm sort of trying to figure out.
This was another great moment for thumbnail pictures, but this is very relatable. Anyone who gets into acting because they actually enjoy acting, whether they do it professionally or not, can likely relate to the feeling of channeling your energy into a different character.
How to navigate that, but I'm just excited for it to be in the wild.
Can I compliment you again on the fact that you have an incredible skill with accents?
Thank you.
Like the House of the Dragon English accent.
David.
All right, that was the end of that clip. Which, interesting point, he just paid her a direct compliment. He said, I heard that you have incredible skill with accents, and she said, thank you. And for a lot of people, it's difficult to accept a compliment like that, but accents aren't easy. It's actually one of the more complex skills of acting that a lot of people just never get into. There's even some very well-known A-list Hollywood celebrities who are not good at doing accents at all.
Contrast between those characters. I mean, I don't know if we're ever going to see Superman drunk or hungover.
And now we're into a different interview, of course. I'm going to link to all of these videos in the description if you want to check them out. Thank you to all these creators for letting me use their content. It's fair use, of course. And if anyone wants me to take something down, I absolutely will. But this is really interesting. He asks her about method acting here.
You don't go method. You're not one of those actors.
No, I don't believe in method acting.
Right?
No.
Have you worked with method actors?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think this is classy because I agree method acting is pretty much bullshit. It's an excuse for poor behavior both on and off set. And it's led to some of the worst instances of actors being actors, which reminds me mention that I don't think actors should by default be given any more respect than they were back in Elizabethan England. So if you're not familiar with how people by default looked at actors back during Shakespeare's time, go look into that and then look at modern actors through the same lens. Now, I'm not saying not to respect modern actors or that no modern actors are deserving of respect. In fact, I'm making a case right now that I didn't think I would be making about how classy Millie Alcock is most of the time. But because of how famous and glamorous actors can be, we tend to give them more respect and authority by default than they deserve, and they actually deserve much less than you might think. And again, I'm speaking generally here, not on a case-by-case basis. Of course, there are many actors on a case-by-case basis who are great people. Keanu Reeves is an excellent example. If you're not familiar with that, look up some fan interactions with Keanu Reeves. He's very popular.
Tell us a little bit about what you can say about kind of what the movie is about for people that don't read comics.
What is the movie about for people that don't read comics?
A dog.
A dog. I would say the story follows Kara, who is celebrating her 23rd birthday, and she befriends a young girl, Ruthie, who's trying to avenge something that's happened to her family. And my dog gets sick, and we both kind of go on this intergalactic tour. No, that's the wrong mission. Adventure.
Just to call attention to a couple of things here. For one, notice that these are all relaxed, long-form podcasts where Millie is dressed in a casual way and she's just having what feels like a normal conversation. Some of them are a little bit more formal than others. And I'm just drawing this to your attention to contrast it to Rachel Zegler later on.
The way I saw it was like your character, Kara, who's Supergirl, is like kind of at a low point in life.
Yeah.
She's kind of a mess.
Yeah.
In this like oversized sunglasses, down in drinks, but somewhere in the galaxy. But
She's
it's like
had a tough
relatable.
time.
Yeah.
When you find out what happened to her, you're like, I'd be doing the same thing, girl.
I know. It's funny how it's like relatable, even though it's not relatable because you like arrived from Krypton.
That amount of tragedy, I think, is.
I think the host of this podcast just discovered science fiction for the first time because she literally just explained what science fiction is. It's relatable in a way that's not relatable because it's not of this world. The stories and the characters are relatable, but the world is fantastical. Seems like she's noticing that for the first time. So welcome to the world of enjoying science fiction and fantasy. And it also seems like we just discovered the target audience for this Supergirl film, which is this type of woman.
She's like, I wasn't there. I
wasn't there. I'm not even here right now.
And this is just a funny little moment where I accidentally cut out the clip before, but she asked Millie a question, and it seemed like Millie had kind of spaced out, and then the host kind of teased her about it, and then she just kind of made fun of herself. And this type of self-deprecating humor, keep in mind, it's not performative self-deprecating humor. She's not going out of her way to say negative things about herself, but when someone else teases her a little bit, she has no problem laughing at herself. And it's basically the inverse of reflecting praise.
Yeah.
But and the other thing that I think, if you ask me what the point of the movie is how your mother, what your mother told you, what Kara's mother told you.
Yeah, how to be good.
This is really funny. They're talking about what is essentially the with great power comes great responsibility moment of this superhero movie. And it seems like this superhero movie isn't really a superhero movie in that there isn't really a lot of heroics going on, but we'll get into that in just a moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I liked how she said, you don't or was that Ruthie said it to you?
You don't have to be. Ruthie kind of says it back to me, but I don't think she realizes.
They're really struggling to remember this moral axiom, which should be very simple.
What my mother has said, yeah. It's like, you don't have to be
kind
or
like
no, but
nice.
You have to, you don't have to be nice, but you have to be kind. You don't have to be strong, but you have to be tough. It was like,
okay, we got there. You don't have to be nice, but you have to be kind. You don't have to be strong, but you have to be tough. This is not especially eloquent, but I happen to agree with what I think it's saying. In fact, I've made entire videos and written entire articles about the difference between being nice and being kind. Being kind is basically understanding that other people are separate individuals from yourself and respecting that, whereas being nice is usually some sort of an attempt at manipulation, very often trying to avoid conflict or trying to curry favor. And the second one, you don't have to be strong, but you have to be tough, is a little bit more interesting, but also correct. You can't always be strong, as in there are times when you're going to be weak, just like you can't always be happy. There are times when you'll be sad and angry, but you always do need to be resilient. You always do need to stay true to yourself.
Yeah.
Something like that, which
Something like that.
I think is so beautiful.
Good was the essence.
Yeah.
Like, be good.
Yeah, because,
So the moral revelation that these two have had is that you should be good.
Superman has a different definition of what it means to be good. And I think
Right.
Kara's definition of what it means to be good. Yeah, it's different. And I really like it. I really adore it.
And it like suits who you are.
Yeah.
All right, now we've established that there can be multiple perspectives on what good is, but they actually seem to have gone right past the idea of multiple perspectives on good all the way into there are multiple versions of good, which is a different thing entirely.
Book, films, oftentimes the audience is told who they should be. But this film is a really beautiful reflection of showing the audience who they are.
Mm.
And yeah, I think it's just really refreshing.
It is because, like I feel like I could think of myself and say, like, I know I'm a good person. Like, can I be a bitch? Or can I be not the nicest that day?
Yeah.
This is what we call a swing and a miss. The host is presuming that goodness is an innate quality and that bad actions don't have any impact on that. She's probably going to get a little bit more nuanced right after this.
Yeah.
So I feel like it really met me. I was like,
Okay, never mind. She didn't get any more nuanced at all. Let me dive in on that one for her. Now, you can make arguments one way or the other about the innate goodness or badness of individuals, but ultimately, what makes you good or bad in reality, in the eyes of other people, and in your own experience and your own judgment is your actions. So when she says, I can feel that I'm good, and then maybe I do something bad, but that's okay, she's not necessarily wrong. It's not like doing one bad thing or doing a specific number of bad things suddenly makes you a bad person. And of course, there's a number of different ways to look at this, but a simple moral framework is to think of your life as a journey. It's a journey that can have many destinations, and the path can go pretty much anywhere you choose for it to go. And when you do good things, you follow a better path. And when you do bad things, you follow a more dangerous path. Not necessarily a more physically dangerous path. In fact, doing bad things can sometimes result in an easier path, such as lying to get a job, lying to get a promotion, things like this. But ultimately, you stray too far down the wrong path, you'll eventually go so far that no amount of reminding yourself that you're ultimately good is going to make a difference.
I was like, you know what? The most important thing is that you're good.
Yeah.
Like, so what if you're in a bad mood one day and you're not the nicest?
It's okay.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
But this is a superhero movie, right? We're talking about life and death situations, not whether you're in a good mood or not.
I felt like that was the vibe of Supergirl.
Yeah.
What was it like doing those fight scenes?
It's actually really fun.
Yeah?
Yeah. Your adrenaline goes like blink. Like it just goes like to the roof because there's like, 6'4" men in these like armored suits running at you on a wire. So you've got to like hit them at the right points. The wire goes off at the right time.
Yeah.
There's like explosions going on. It's really fun. It is really fun.
And like, that like you're going to, you can take them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know that you win, which is even better.
Yeah.
Yep, I think that is the face of the female power fantasy girl boss superhero film with no moral ramifications enjoy her.
Yeah.
It is so cool how she just like walks around her trench coat.
Yeah.
And now we'll move on to Rachel Zegler. And the reason that I stressed on multiple occasions how relaxed and comfortable and friendly Millie seemed is because I could not find a sit-down, comfortable, long-form interview with Rachel Zegler from the past few years. In every single interview, it's in a studio, which this is. She's sitting on some sort of a chair that is basically a stool, like this one. She's wearing something very professional looking, and her hair's pulled back. She's very made up. She looks like she's had a job interview here. And there's nothing wrong with that. She can wear whatever she wants. I'm just saying that she doesn't look very relaxed. We'll see that she doesn't behave very relaxed or natural. And none of these are from long-form interviews where she's just sitting down on someone's podcast or someone's YouTube channel and answering all their questions. And this is from the lead up to Snow White, but this clip starts with the interviewer asking how she prepared for Evita. And he basically just mentioned that she was in Evita and then says, how did you prepare for that? So it seemed like he was asking, how did you prepare for that stage production differently than you prepared for this film? But he didn't specify that, so we'll see where she takes this question.
How are you preparing for that?
Oh my God, I feel like I've been preparing for it since the womb. I mean, that score has kind of just been a part of my life for forever, and getting the opportunity to play complicated, powerful women it's a real gift to get to do that as an actor, but then also to bring it to the stage in a musical is wonderful for me because that's where I fell in love with what I do for a living. So to get to go back to the stage in London where I made this beautiful film, I have so many wonderful friends out there and restaurants and things I can't wait to go back to this summer.
Nice. And what do you say to that little girl?
To me, that felt like a stamp of approval Disney GPT output. She mentioned playing powerful female characters, and she almost said she was grateful, but didn't really say anything about her process for preparing for the role and didn't really say anything personal.
Little boy who wants to be like you when they grow up.
Nothing's impossible. I never would have imagined that I would get to be Snow White. So truly just for people to see someone who looks like them, someone who represents a dreamer, no matter.
The interviewer asks, what would you say to the little boy or little girl who wants to be a famous actor someday? And her response is, nothing's impossible. Terrible way of expressing it, and also inherently condescending. But then she immediately flows into talking about how important it is that everyone sees somebody who looks like them in order to feel inspired. And this idea has been debunked so many times, but she just says it like a broken record.
No matter what they look like or where they come from, the true meaning of fair is the kindness within, and that's the point of our film. And so being fair means much more than what meets the eye.
The true meaning of fair is the kindness within.
Amen.
I like that.
That's the whole message of the film. It always has been since 1937.
That's what we in the business called a shit-eating grin, because she's shoveling shit down their throats and smiling while she does it. And I remember that 6 months to a year before this, every time someone asked them about the "who's the fairest of them all" line, they made a point of saying, we're changing it. They said it's important that instead of focusing on Snow White's beauty, which is what the original line is about, she just intentionally lied about what the original story was about, claiming that it was always about Snow White being a more fair ruler than the evil queen. Let me destroy this with one question. If the queen is evil, why would her vanity require that she be considered the most fair, right? If the queen is willing to lie, cheat, steal, murder to get what she wants, then why would how fair a person she inherently is, why would how good a person she is inherently matter to her? But also, if you just watch the original film or read the story or anything, it's very obvious that this story uses the reality-based trope of an older woman being envious of a younger, more attractive woman. What happens in the real story is every single day, the evil queen looks in her magic mirror and says, "Who's the fairest of them all?" Meaning, who's the most beautiful? And the mirror, which somehow has the knowledge of this, tells her, "You are the most beautiful." But then one day, presumably or hopefully, when Snow White comes of age, the mirror starts saying Snow White is the most beautiful. That's why the queen wants her to be killed. And because this is an age-old, reality-based trope of older women being envious of younger, more fertile, more attractive women, Disney wanted to subvert this trope. And initially, they were very explicitly saying, this is a bad trope. This idea that women can be envious of each other's beauty, it's false, it's the patriarchy, it's fake, so we are erasing it. We're changing it to mean something else. We are better than the old version. That's what they were saying over and over again initially. Now she's claiming it's always been that way. So not only is she rewriting the history of her own interviews in her own words, she's rewriting all the history all the way back to the first animated film that Disney ever produced. Or to the face that launched 1,000 ships, this is the face that took 1,000 shits.
I'm such a firm believer that acting is a profession.
This is a really weird interview where they sent her questions and she answered them, filming presumably herself in presumably her home, although I have no idea if she actually filmed them herself or where she actually is. And the first question is, how do you pull away from your character after finishing on set for the day/night? Now, this is a very common question because it is a very real concern. When you spend a lot of time playing a character, as in physically acting and talking like a character, it can start to seep into your mind.
Profession, and therefore I go, well, I did my job for the day, time to clock out of work. I think there's a misconception that like you carry a lot of it home with you. I've never been one of those actors.
So she says she thinks there's a misconception that actors carry this home with them, and then she says, I've never been one of those actors. Now, those two statements can't both be true. And it's obviously the second one that is true. She is the exception, not the rule. Most actors who play very strong characters that go through a lot and have extremely strong emotions will feel affected by it in some way. And that's one of the reasons why the best, most professional actors don't do things like method acting, which involves immersing yourself entirely in the character and even being the character when you're not on set or not on stage. It's mostly an excuse for poor behavior, but it's a clear example of the character having a negative, ongoing impact on the person and their life.
Even when I was doing Romeo and Juliet on Broadway and I was killing myself on stage 8 times a week, you just kind of shake it off and you go, well, that was my job and this is my real life, and yeah, I don't.
Just keep this in mind for later. She's saying that at no point in her career has she ever felt like aspects of a character are sticking with her when she's not actively at work.
I don't really have a method for that. I have never been on Reddit willingly. I like to think that playing...
This question is, has playing a character ever changed your own personality?
Characters has awakened something that was always there and that I just wasn't aware of. Essentially, like being Lucy Gray.
So remember, to the last question, she answered that she never takes anything home from acting. The characters never have any impact on her in a lasting way. To answer this question, she says that every character has awakened something in her that was already there. So basically, she's saying that every acting job she's ever had has just helped her realize how awesome she is a little bit more.
In the Hunger Games was a real turning point for me as a person and deciding what I would and wouldn't stand for in treatment I received from others or the way that others were treated in the world. And so...
What a smug thing to say.
And wouldn't stand for in treatment I received from others or the way that others were treated in the world.
So she's claiming that before she was in the Hunger Games, Songbirds and Snakes, or whatever it's called, before she was in that film, she didn't know that tyranny is bad and you should stand up against it.
And wouldn't stand for in treatment I received from others or the way that others were treated in the world.
And you notice the eye roll that she does when she says the way that others are treated within the world. She's clearly referencing some of the pet political causes that she pretends to care about. And the eye roll clearly shows how much she actually cares about those things. But it's just hilarious to me that she thinks she's showing depth by claiming that she didn't know bad things were bad until she was in a Hunger Games movie.
And so she's got one of my favorite lines, which is, I don't sing when I'm told, I sing when I have something to say.
By the way, Rachel Zegler's entire job is to sing and say what she's told when she's told.
To how Suzanne Collins writes her female characters. But, you know, there's been a nugget I found in every character I've played, with Snow White, with Anthea, with Maria, even the animated characters that I've voiced. There's got to be a little bit of you everywhere, so I'm very lucky.
So now she said that characters never have a lasting impact on her. Then she said that all characters have left a little nugget of themselves with her. And now she's saying that herself and Snow White have melded together.
There's definitely an unspoken pressure that comes with the reimagination and retelling of classic stories. I've been very honored for so much of my career to bring those stories back to the new generation and to be a version of a film or story that people either haven't seen before or they loved growing up and now get to see reborn again. There's a lot of responsibility there. And so you have to take excellent care of the classic versions of these stories that people care so deeply about and toe the line for the modern age and make them understand why it needs to be retold or re-brought into the conversation. It needs to toe the line for the modern.
I had to skip through quite a bit of this part because there's just so much self-adulation. But it's wild. For 2.5, 3 minutes, she sits perfectly still while talking with her hands clenched in her lap like this. And now listen to what she says here and watch when she finally moves her hands a little bit.
Age and make them understand why it needs to be retold.
She's talking about the responsibility that actors who portray beloved characters have to the fandoms and to the original lore and authors.
There's a lot of responsibility there. And so you have to take excellent care of the classic versions of these stories that people care so deeply about and toe the line for the modern age and make them understand why it needs to be retold.
She thinks it's her job to toe the line for the modern age and make people understand why it needs to be retold.
Or re-brought into the conversation. With West Side Story, we were very lucky to be in such wonderful hands, and I am just...
And this one, and I think this is basically a fake interview. I think that this set was put up by Disney, and they had like a producer or a set manager or someone read the questions to her, and she answered them with the most press-friendly bullshit she could muster. And I just turned off the sound and turned up the speed. Look at her hands. She's clenching her hands together with her fingers, barely moving her hands. Her thumbs just bouncing up and down. And then when she finally does move her hands, it's because she's talking about how it's her job to make them understand why it needs to be retold.
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince.
Well, she's not going to be saved by this comparison with Millie Alcock either, because Rachel Zegler is absolutely on another level of awful.